Open borders, deadly consequences.
Border crisis. Record high crossings are putting a strain on cities across America.
It is a full-blown invasion.
Armed Venezuelan gang members storming an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado.
When people talk about migrant crime, this is what they're talking about. Biden and Harris had created a program to bring them in under humanitarian parole.
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been released into the United States.
My 20-year-old daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was murdered in her own room. Kayla's murderer was apprehended by Border Patrol crossing illegally into the U.S.
Kayla's murderer had been improperly released into the United States.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah, we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
More than a dozen people suspected of being Tren de Aragua gang members right here in San Antonio.
The gang members had been terrorizing the apartment complex.
New details in the murder of Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national.
And was paroled and released into the country by the Biden administration.
2 men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
Court documents suggest a group of men arrested for beating and robbing a Dallas woman last month are members of a Venezuelan street gang.
Manuel Hernandez was booked by Colleyville police just 2 days earlier and released the day before the robbery.
That is an epic video. Good evening, friends. Welcome to Questions Worth Pondering. I'm excited to see everybody. We've got, let me go. Got lots in chat here. We've got Rocker Lady, Sammy, how are you? And In God We Trust, Natalie Blazin. So good to see you guys. We've got Carrie in chat too. So, yeah, we've got a show tonight. I've got a lot to cover. So I know when I covered the hurricanes, I said I'd follow up with some FEMA stuff. And I decided not to make this whole show about FEMA because I want to talk about the elections. And I was going to do a poll. Do I talk about FEMA or do I talk about the elections? But I decided I'm just going to do both. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I guess I should introduce myself to folks that haven't been here. But just so you know, Questions Worth Pondering is a show where we ask questions. And we ask questions related to current events, historical events, politics, and we all have questions, and sometimes those questions lead to more questions, and that's okay. So sometimes we don't always have the answer. We just have more questions. Other times our questions are to answer to expose corruption. So whatever road we are led down doesn't matter as long as we find the truth, and the truth is what we're after. So I'm your host, Neneves, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about FEMA, we're going to talk about the border, elections, and then I want to talk about words. I want to talk about words as it relates to narratives, and that's what we're going to discuss tonight. So please consider supporting me. You can leave a Rumble rant, you can subscribe on Rumble, or you can go to Linktree /Nevs TV to see all my links. You can buy me a coffee there and all of that. If you like this video, please give it a like. It will make more people see it. And please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. All right, let's dig in, shall we? Maybe I'll start with FEMA since that's where we left off last time. Sound like a good idea? Okay, let's see. Let me see where I want to start with FEMA. So we were talking about FEMA and what came out of some of that is the money that was spent on FEMA and then also where they're also spending their money on FEMA. So Mayorkas, as you recall, put out a statement that FEMA isn't going to have enough money for additional natural disasters that come up. And I think he intentionally put that statement out in order for the narrative to start being set that Congress is in recess and the speakers refusing to bring them back so that they can't give us any more funding. I really think that's the narrative they were wanting to put forward with that, but it kind of got squashed in their face. Basically, Congress had given them, I don't know how much money, if it was 20 million, 20 billion, I don't know. It was something like the day before they went on recess to handle Helene. And but there's a new narrative going around, and they're trying to push that, they're in recess, and now SBA is out of money too. So Mike Johnson was on Meet the Press last Sunday, and he schooled them. I mean, I have a lot of clips from Mike Johnson, just not even just about FEMA, but about everything we're going to talk about tonight. So, but I'd like to show the first clip. And a lot of these things intertwine, the border, the migrant situation, FEMA, because FEMA is being accused of using FEMA dollars to take care of all the illegal immigrants. And MSM has been pushing back on that, saying that's been debunked. That's not true. And so I think before I show this next clip, I think I'll set this up and just talk about that for a minute. Because actually it is true. We showed it on the last show where FEMA even has on their website how they are using funds to send to migrants. What the MSM is trying to do, they're trying to spin it because President Trump was complaining about it. They are trying to spin it to say that he's saying they're taking away dollars meant for hurricanes and giving it to migrants. That's not what he said. He said FEMA is using their money. They've got all these resources for immigrants. So why can't they move those resources to take care of our own people who are suffering right now? Because they have different buckets of money for different things. And one of the buckets is for natural disasters. And another one, why, is for taking care of the immigrants, flying them around, putting them in hotels, feeding them, giving them whatever money they get on those Visa cards, that kind of stuff. And I'm going off on a tangent before I show this clip. But basically, why is FEMA? Why do they even have money for that? Like, isn't that Homeland Security and the border control? But they're trying to say that there's no emergency at the border, and yet they're using FEMA, Federal Emergency Management, to spend on them. Kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, let's look at this first clip with Mike Johnson and talking about the border and FEMA dollars.
We're 3 weeks from Election Day. Former President Trump continues to make false claims. Let me read you a couple of them. Venezuelan gang members have overrun an apartment complex, he says, in Aurora, Colorado. Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating cats and dogs. FEMA funds have been redirected to house migrants. Mr. Speaker, all of those claims have been debunked. If former President Trump is so confident in his policies, yes, they haven't.
What he's talking about is the things that the American people care about. This FEMA dollars going to resettle migrants, that is a fact. I mean, that is an objective fact. What he's talking about, it's not the disaster relief fund, but it's another fund that FEMA used to resettle all the illegal aliens that they let across the open border.
Mr.
Kamala
Speaker,
Harris, the border czar, was the engineer of that.
I do have to, the FEMA funds were not redirected to house migrants. That has been debunked. It's a separate fund. FEMA has said as much.
That's right.
But
That's
just
right.
to the substance, why not make the argument on the substance of the policies, Mr. Speaker?
I'm trying to do that. Let me do that. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, as its name implies, should be working on federal emergency management, not resettling illegal aliens that are violating federal law. They're sending them around the country. They're putting them on taxpayer benefits, and that has enraged the country.
Mr. Speaker, we should note that FEMA funds were actually redirected on Donald Trump's watch to deal with the migrant issue. Let me ask you, you mentioned the medical records.
No, ma'am.
Trump,
wait a minute. No, that's hold on, wait a minute. Wait, facts are important. That is a new program that started in 2020 under Joe Biden. That funding wasn't necessary under Trump's administration because we secured the border. We didn't invite illegal aliens and dangerous people into the country. That's a Biden-Harris policy, and everybody knows it.
Mr. Speaker, it did happen under Donald Trump's watch, but let me just ask you about medical records since you raised them.
No, Kristen,
should Donald
we
Trump
did not.
release
that
all
is
of his medical records?
New account.
He did not let her get away with that. So you're on I've seen some things about Mike Johnson. I think he's compromised. I'm looking at the comments. This is not my opinion. I'm on the fence about Mike Johnson. Y'all have to watch these clips, and you should watch that whole Meet the Press show. I'll actually post the entire show. You have to watch the whole thing, the whole interview. He schooled her. He is very supportive of President Trump. But he wouldn't let her get away with it. He's like, facts matter. And, I salute him for that. And I just crack up every time I see him be like, no, ma'am. He said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. All right. So, the other part of that. So that's the first part. That's just about how FEMA's money is being used. But now they're trying to change it and talk about the SBA. I posted this video, so maybe I don't need to show that clip. I don't know. Should I show it? Maybe I'll show it. So he talks about the SBAs. So what they're trying to say is that, the SBA is out of their money that that they use for disaster relief. Why the SBA? I just don't understand the government. It's way too complicated. But apparently the SBA gives loans, quick turnaround loans. So this isn't like FEMA grant money where people just get helped. But it's really important. Actually, I'm going to show this clip because he clarifies what Congress is doing about SBA and the timing around getting them the money they need, because now it's been announced by Biden today, and she said it on Sunday. SBA is out of money, and you guys are on recess, and you're not coming back. And but it's really interesting what he says about even the FEMA money in this clip.
FEMA says that it does have enough funding for now. Different story for the Small Business Administration, which provides low-interest loans to renters, homeowners, and beyond. SBA is saying it could run out of funds within mere days, Mr. Speaker. You've said it's premature to call Congress back to get more funding, but has the possibility of leaving small business owners in a lurch changed your calculation?
Congress will not leave small business owners wanting. I am a small business owner, and I'm from a hurricane-prone state, Louisiana. We're kind of experts in this disaster recovery. The SBA loan, as you indicated, is a small interest loan that helps people bridge the gap and get back on their feet. But importantly about that program, it is a supplement to private insurance and other disaster relief funding. And so by definition and necessity, it takes a few weeks to calculate it. Now, Congress is expected to come back. We're already scheduled to come back right after the election. We're 23 days out from the election. That will coincide almost perfectly, I think, with the time for most of these applications to even begin and many of them to be processed. One day before Helene made landfall, we appropriated $20 billion additional dollars to FEMA so they would have the resources to address urgent needs. But I'll say this is very important to note. As of yesterday, roughly 2% of those funds had been distributed.
Are you ruling out calling Congress back to get more funding even for the SBA?
No, Congress will do whatever is necessary to cover the needs of the people. As soon as those numbers are submitted to Congress, we will act, and it'll be bipartisan, and we'll cover the needs.
So I think the narrative they're trying to spin is that people aren't getting help in North Carolina because Congress is in recess, which is ridiculous. I just think that's the narrative, but it's incredible. They gave FEMA $20 billion before they went on recess, and FEMA has only used 2% of it. Do you know those people? Yes, SBA is the Small Business Administration. Sorry about that. Yes. So I really feel like he totally schooled her. Yes, good on him. For sure. So I know people are sus of things, but you have to watch what people do. And you know, what they say is important, but you have to watch what they do also. All right. So that being said, then there is, well, yeah, I'm going to continue with FEMA, but I do have a question. We've raised this question. I just want to remind people of this question. I feel like we need to be watching that area that was destroyed in North Carolina. There were quartz mines there. And this is a high quality quartz that is needed throughout the world for computing and lithium. So lithium and quartz mines were there. And I just, I feel like we need to keep a close eye on this. Just like with the Maui situation. So I'm starting to do research on that, and I might either do a quick bonus episode on Maui update because I have some updates. But let's keep an eye on North Carolina too. That being said, I would like to continue with a little bit more info. So this is, when was this? This is from 2011. All right. So in 2011, they started talking about vulnerability, the disaster of vulnerability. And they're talking about vulnerable people in society. And I'm setting this up because what they considered vulnerable back then has completely changed. They've completely changed it. Just checking the comments. Lahaina 2.0, it might be. It might be. We'll have to find out. The only other mine like it is in China. I think you're right. Or Taiwan. I think, isn't the lithium what you need for what do they build in what do they mine in Taiwan that's why China wants Taiwan? Something with computers. They don't know if the mines were damaged, but the infrastructure to take out the quartz was destroyed. Interesting. Kind of interesting. Yeah, I think let's keep an eye on that and keep chatting about that. But all right, so it talks about here the vulnerability perspective in disasters, which is rapidly emerging as a dominant view in the world, assumes that a real disaster occurs when it strikes an underprivileged population. So this is when that kind of stuff started happening. But what they talk about in here is a lot of like, if people are disabled, if people don't have resources to get the help that they need, is it computer chip? I thought maybe it was something else. But yes, maybe for computer chips. I think that's what the lithium is for, and the quartz is also needed for AI, I believe, if I remember correctly. Anyways, so I kind of wanted to set the stage on the narrative for who could be impacted by natural disasters and why we need to help them. And it makes sense. Like if you got elderly people, you have disabled people, people with like learning well, I guess that would be disabled. But anyway, so there could be some underserved people that you need to get to right away and help out right away. So semiconductors, that's what I was trying to think of. That's the word I was trying to think of. Thank you, Carrie. Now, what is FEMA spending their money on? They're spending money on pushing equity, prioritizing underserved communities leading up to hurricane season. So, okay, this was October 7th. Was this October 7th? I think I didn't want to show this one first because I had some earlier stuff that was happening. Oh, here we go. February 20th, 2024. It says LGBT people are at a higher risk for disasters. Why? Who the heck knows? Why would they be at a higher risk? Anyone who's in an area that's prone to natural disasters is at risk. What do all the LGBT people live in places where there's hurricanes? No, I doubt it. I bet many are in New York, Chicago, and LA. But they're all over the place. But the point of this whole thing is FEMA is literally spending money not on DEI in their department, but they're spending money on hiring people that their job is to come up with ideas of why LGBTQ people, whatever acronyms you want to use, why they are more impacted than others. They literally like created new roles for people to do this. And these people are putting on webinars and inviting speakers, and FEMA money's going to this. It's kind of incredible. But I'm going to go through these articles, and then I'm going to show a video of a couple of clips from those said paid webinars that FEMA co-hosted. But co-hosting means they're putting money into it. So, all right. It's funny. Of course, during the Biden administration, it would be the first report that mentions lesbians, gays, bisexual, and transgender. So their first preparedness report has that in there. It's so crazy. I don't know if I highlighted anything else in here. I think I just wanted to make the point that they were doing that. And right on the FEMA website, it says helping LGBTQI. See, there's an I at the end of there now. I never know. Oh, and there's a plus. Survivors after disasters. I mean, why don't they just have an article helping people after disasters? This was from April of 2023. And this is just promoting those webinars that they put on. So they have this like virtual webinar. You can see all the speakers that they have, the event details, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the original article that I was first showing because I do have some stuff highlighted in here, I'm thinking. Yeah, well, I think maybe I couldn't highlight on this page for some reason. Can I? No. Okay. Basically, okay, FEMA's Regional Catastrophic Preparedness Grant Program sought to disperse multi-million-dollar grants designed to bolster disaster preparedness equity. Millions, multi-millions. These are our tax dollars at work for what it calls underserved communities. I'm telling you, like, yes, should they be preparing for natural disasters? But should it even think about whether a person is black, white, male, female, transgender, gay, lesbian, any of that? No. It should just be about rescuing people and helping get infrastructure back up and running. But no, they have millions of dollars. A label later defined in grant documents as population sharing a particular characteristic, as well as geographic communities who have been systematically denied full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic, social, and civic life. Do you know any gay people that can't participate in economic, social, or civic life, and why that matters to FEMA? You know what I mean? Is sort of crazy. Yeah, promoting and rewarding victim mentality. That's right. Yeah, it's really interesting. So they put on these webinars, which I do have a clip of, and then there's this article. Marjorie Taylor Greene bizarrely claims FEMA hates Christians because it aids trans women. A twisted MSM. And then they look at the picture they choose to show. I mean, the media is so transparent right now. They're so transparent. Anyway, so she posted this panel that I'm going to show. And, but yeah, the people complain about it, and then the media goes after them. I'm going to show the clip, and then I'm going to show you the fact check on it. But I do want to show Mike Davis real quick. So good for him. He said racial discrimination, equity in disaster relief is illegal. Actually, discrimination is equity. That's what it is. It's discrimination. It's illegal. Not only can you face significant personal financial liability, you are also committing very serious federal crimes. So this is a warning to them. Yes, it's Marxism. You got that right. You got that right. So with that, I'm going to show this clip. This is an example of the webinars that they put on. And where is it? Sorry, I've got a lot of videos. Here we go. This is an example of the webinars that they put on.
LGBTQIA people and people who have been disadvantaged already are struggling. They already have their own things to deal with. So you add a disaster on top of that. It's just compounding on itself.
The shift that we're seeing right now is a shift in emergency management from utilitarian principles where everything is designed for the greatest good for the greatest amount of people to disaster equity. But we have to do more, right? And so this topic is intersecting, I think, with a number of other topics where we have to look at policies and understand to what extent they have disadvantaged communities that had less assets, communities that had pre-existing vulnerabilities in accessing disaster-related recovery supports.
Being a migrant trans woman, there is an undocumented concern. There is also a concern of whether they would trust the places that are offering shelter that are faith-based because of the way they've been responded to in the past. Then if they are accepted, what would happen in terms of misgendering, in terms of bedrooms and bathrooms, et cetera. And then in addition, public safety once they're inside from those who are actually sheltering with them. All those concerns are there.
Her concern is people might get misgendered. His concern, I should say, trans woman there. Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right. All right. So this is the fact check. 2023 FEMA webinar shows the agency is prioritizing its relief efforts around LGBTQ plus people. They're very tricky when they do their fact checks. Many of the fact checks say no, President Trump, or no, President Biden didn't do XYZ. No, Kamala Harris didn't mean XYZ. All these fact checks are just propaganda outfits. It should be illegal. But look at the careful wording here. Shows the agency is prioritizing. So they're putting up these fact checks in response to the comments that are being made. But that the comments being made aren't saying they're prioritizing relief efforts. The comments are being made that FEMA has money it's using on migrants. That woman also, sorry, I shouldn't call him a woman. What is a woman? That last person, it also not only is concerned about people being misgendered during emergency situations, but it's concerned that if you're a migrant, you might not speak the language, or you might not have a gender appropriate bathroom. I mean, seriously, these people, millions of dollars going towards this stuff, millions of dollars. That's right. They didn't need fact checking. And it's funny see how all these things intertwine. We've got the FEMA, we've got the border, with all the migrant stuff happening. Oh, shoot. I forgot to save some stuff on that. I might just have to talk about it. The border, FEMA, the hurricanes, the migrants, and the elections. They're all intertwined. Or if I were one of them, I'd be saying the intersection between blah, 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 because, they like intersection. Anyway, I think that's probably enough on FEMA, but I don't think I finished the border stuff, so I'm going to go back to that. All right. I just want to pull up. Oops, I got to get this sharing too. All right. So, Kamala. She wants to bring back the border security bill. She keeps saying that Donald Trump tanked it, so she's giving him like a lot of credit for having a lot of power. But the border bill that she wants to bring back was not a border security bill. It was an amnesty bill. So she's promising to bring back amnesty, basically. If we go back and read that, I will do the work to create an orderly and humane pathway for earned citizenship for hardworking people. So in the same breath, she's pretty much talking about amnesty. That's what she wants. It's not about border security. It's not. The other thing that MSM keeps talking about is, and you saw it with Kirsten with Mike Johnson. She says it's been debunked. It's been debunked. And he's like, no, it hasn't. So he corrected her on that. And let's just, I'm going to do a reminder on that. Yeah, I'm going to do a reminder.
We're 3 weeks from Election Day. Former President Trump continues to make false claims. Let me read you a couple of them. Venezuelan gang members have overrun an apartment complex, he says, in Aurora, Colorado. Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio are eating cats and dogs. FEMA funds have been redirected to house migrants. Mr. Speaker, all of those claims have been debunked. If former President Trump is so confident in his policies, yes, they have.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. He goes on to say how much proof there is. But it just came out that in Colorado, there was multiple apartment units. And there was, I didn't bring up this clip. Oh, maybe I should maybe I should get it. No, I won't. I'll just speak to it. JD Vance, he's on a morning show and they're saying the same thing. And the gal says something like, oh, what did she say? Something like there was only a few, and they took care of the problem or something like that. And JD Vance says to her, will you listen to yourself? Will you listen to yourself? You just said there's a problem. There are Venezuelan gangs in Colorado that are causing a problem. And so I started looking into it, and it's all over the country. It's not just in Colorado. It's not just in a handful of places. So apparently the Venezuelan gangs and gangs from Mexico and other places, they are overtaking many cities in our country, many. And that being said, I'm just going to pull up the New York Post. So their latest issue that came out yesterday, this is their cover, is Pay to Pray. And they're getting paid to come here. They're getting paid to come here to terrorize Americans, basically. So they got, migrant youth gangs terrorizing Times Square. I couldn't open it because I don't have like a subscription. You have to pay. Over on the left here, they show their subscription prices. So I wasn't able to open it to look, but I did go on their website and they have a couple of articles related to the migrants coming into the cities. And they're talking about New York. So New York has a huge problem right now. And a couple of their articles, like here's one, meet one of the little devils, a 15-year-old migrant terrorizing New York City in armed robberies. Little teenager underage. And then there's a Tren de Aragua, teen thugs born from perfect storm of pro-crime, progressive policies. That's another article. And then they've got articles on how much each New York State resident will have to fork over in taxes to cover the migrant crisis. So it looks like it's $2.3 billion for New York City, just for New York. And Kamala, she went to Guatemala to tell the Guatemalans not to come, but the Guatemalans aren't the people we have trouble with. We have terrorists coming into our country we have people coming from China, from the Middle East. We have people that want to destroy America coming into this country, and Venezuelan gangs. But she goes to Guatemala, and here's what she tells them.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
Sorry, I was trying to find the video so I could take it off. But yeah, Carrie, is it showing? Oopsie. I'm trying to get down to it's here in Texas, near the border. They took over a hotel, but Abbott really recently removed them. That's the thing. You got to have leadership in place who's willing to be tough and not stand for it. Yes, the apartment management company came forth. Oh, there was a Twitter thread on that. The apartment management, maybe I'll try to pull that up. I might have reposted it actually. Let me go look at my timeline. because it's a really good thread, you guys. If you haven't seen it, then oh, I thought that I reposted it. Maybe I didn't. Shoot. Darn it. Well, I have to refine it because I do need to post it, and I'll put it on Telegram and Truth Social. Sorry, I'm going through you guys don't need to watch me go through that. Sorry. Man, I thought for sure I did. But I want to show that because the apartment complex management companies, so there's property management companies that manage the apartments for the owners. And they came forth, they have a whole thread with Sauce and talking about how much trouble they have had, how much work they put into refurbishing it so it'd be a nice community for people. And then the gangs came in. They just share everything that's happened there and how the police wouldn't come, how people would report issues of like the owners would report that they would have vacant apartments that they've used to have problems with like homeless people, vagrants wanting to try to find empty apartments to go in, but the gangs started going in them. And then the gangs started going into apartments that were already rented. Like this guy went on vacation, came back, and they were living in his apartment, and he was forced to leave. Then another resident was told to pay rent to these gangs instead of to the management company. And then the management company was told, you have to pay us 50-50, share the rent 50-50 with us, or we're going to cause more problems. And that's, one of the state legislators, because the police said we can't do anything until there's a serious crime. Are you kidding me? One of the state legislators literally went and helped a woman move out because she couldn't afford to move out. So sad. So, they can just whatever with them for what they say when they say this stuff's not happening. It's happening. It's happening. All right. Let's see. I want to move on to the elections because I really want to get to the narrative stuff. And I have some election stuff. I'm trying to figure out what I want to cover first. Maybe. Maybe I'll just quick talk about maybe I'll talk about the polls really quick. So some polls have been coming out. I posted that I don't believe polls, no matter whether they're good or bad, but they're starting to show that Trump is pushing ahead. And some of them are also showing that he's especially, surprisingly, and they're shocked, that the polls are showing that Black men are really going for Trump right now. And they're very worried about that. They're very, very worried about that. So Kamala, she's really working hard to try and turn that around. And you can tell just based on you can always tell. It's like they're so reactionary. They're just not ever on offensive. So you can kind of tell where things are at when they are so on the defense because not only with these polls, so these polls come out and then she suddenly does something, which I'll pull up and we'll talk about. But like Trump says, no tax on tips, then she says no tax on tips. You know what I mean? Trump says the border is dangerous and it's Kamala's fault. And Kamala's trying to blame stuff on Trump and try to say that she's now going to secure the border. It's pretty crazy that anybody would ever even believe that. So, let me see. I think I'll start here on Kamala's. Maybe I'll start with the poll then we'll go to Kamala's Twitter page or X account. So NBC, I'm not going to play the video because I've had enough of her from NBC. But basically, Kamala was like 6 points ahead. Now, yeah, right here, 49 to 44, went to 40. Then it went tied. And now they're saying it's even. So this was just 2 days ago. And now today I'm hearing it's like incredible poll numbers. Like Trump's going to have a landslide. So, but Kamala's concern is those black men are pushing him over the edge. And, so she put this out today, pinned it to her profile. And I don't know if you guys can see it good. How should I make it bigger? All right. This was today, I believe, she posted. Black men deserve a president who cares about making their lives better. Kamala Harris will create an opportunity agenda. Okay, here's the next thing. Just the word. So she was recently on a podcast too. She said, I'm creating what we're calling an opportunity agenda. And they're playing off of the positive results of Trump's opportunity zones. So Trump had the opportunity zones, if you recall. And so they're using his terminology that he used for his program to try and psychologically sway voters. So she's calling it an opportunity agenda for black men. Like that's really great, Kamala. You talk about one group of people. And what's interesting is what's in this opportunity agenda. Provide 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000 for black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. 1 million loans. So $20,000 times 1 million is whatever. Where she get? I don't know where she thinks she's going to get that money. And why 1 million? Like, why would you look at that number? Wouldn't you say for just provide loans that are forgivable for black entrepreneurs? But forgivable just means it's a handout. That's not really a loan that's forgivable. That's not a loan. That's a handout. $20K. Support. I'm just going to talk about that one more second because they trick people with their giveaways because they don't really give away money. So just like with FEMA and the $750, you had to qualify for that. And if you didn't qualify, you didn't get it. So no matter what, if your economic situation was where you were doing okay and you could support yourself, you didn't get that money. Even though they said it was for immediate assistance for immediate needs. Like nobody, regardless of how much money they make, they could not access their money. They could not access their bank accounts. Where are they going to spend the money? Anyway, I went off on a tangent. Let's go back. Support education, training, and mentorship programs that lead to good paying jobs for black men, including pathways to become teachers. Like that's a very specific job. I don't get it. And it's almost like she's saying black men can't get good paying jobs. It's so funny how racist they are when they try to lure in a specific group. Doesn't matter what the group is. Could be women, could be trans people. Protect cryptocurrency investments so black men who make them know their money is safe. Just very odd. Launch a national health initiative focused on the illnesses that disproportionately impact black men. They use this word too, this disproportionately impact. They use this for everything. Yet they can't really prove that. Like, I would like to see the study behind this and what data did they use to come up with this? Legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry. So black men, They smoke marijuana? I don't know, guys. This looks like desperation to me. What do you guys think? I don't know. Oh my gosh. I don't know. This is just kind of crazy. So she's trying to get the black men's vote. And one thing that Gateway Pundit calls out is Kamala Harris kept hundreds of black men in prison past their release date in California so she could use them for cheap labor. So she was ordered by the federal government because of overcrowding in prisons. There was a program to review nonviolent crimes and reduce those sentences. And she had to be asked several times. It had to go through several layers of authority. She did whatever she wanted to release people from prison, and she would not. She refused. And that's some of the deeper Kamala dive stuff I'm working on, actually. I have a lot of her historical stuff. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, so her excuse was they needed them for free labor. They were slaves, you know. That's what prisoners are. If prisoners are working and doing any work for anybody, regardless of their crime, you know, you guys saw when Deneen was on the show, she talked about how much money people make in prison. Like, they make pennies per hour. That's slave labor, and it should be outlawed. It should be outlawed. If they need prisoners to do work, you know, the punishment is being in prison. And it's one thing to be like community service stuff, like you need to go pick up the trash, take care of the community, but literal work, like if they're doing work, I consider that slave labor. If they're doing work that people voluntarily do for no pay, like cleaning up, you know, the local parks and stuff, but I don't consider that. But anyway, so Gateway Pundit brought that up, and I thought that was really good. And then I've got a couple more clips on her and her wanting to basically just try to get the black vote. She's having trouble with it. And I don't even know why we track black vote versus, you know, white vote versus Latino vote. Like, people are people. But anyway, all right, let me show a couple of clips of her. Well, let's look at this guy first. Answer
questions from black people, but she needs to answer questions from everyone. I don't believe Democratic excitement and Democratic excitement alone is going to win this election, and she knows that.
What you going to do for the economy? Well, I was raised in middle class. Man, we didn't ask you that.
There's no need for you to be that on script. In a conversation. When you hear the narrator say Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners, that one line, I was like, hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that. They'll be talking to Trump or J.D. Vance, and they'll be talking to them about things that are happening right here in America. Then, you know, you go to Tim Walz, and they're asking him about geopolitical politics. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times that makes them sound, you know, very out of touch. That makes them sound very out of touch to what's actually going on right here in America.
That's right. He pretty much nailed it, and she knows it. Her campaign knows it. The powers that be that pull her strings know it. So, but yeah, let's I've got another clip of Kamala. It's just 1 minute long. We'll watch this. She's trying to get the men's vote, the black men's vote.
But polling shows that some black men, particularly young black men, are considering voting for Donald Trump, and they see him as better for the economy. What is your message to young black male voters who feel left out of this economy, and how can your economic policies materially change their lives?
So I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I'll tell you, I've often been asked this question in a way that I've had to respond by first saying that I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their.
Okay, so what was interesting about that is that was a couple of years ago before she was even like running. So I found that statement to be interesting, that black people aren't in anyone's pocket. And she's trying to get them in her pocket, basically, is my point on that one. All right, so Kamala, so the election, Kamala does definitely, she's worried, and it's showing. And, Trump even posted that clip that we saw with that guy. He said, coming to a TV near you. He's got more on here. I don't think I'm going to show that. All right. A few more things on the elections. So Mike Johnson was asked about why won't Trump release his medical records, which, I mean, how many medical records over the years do we need to see of Trump? And Mike Johnson kept saying, well, you just see him in action. You can see how healthy and vibrant and energetic he is. He said, I don't even know how he does it, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, Kamala released her medical records. Well, good for her. You know, like they're trying to make medical records a big deal. But this is hilarious little clip here.
He didn't release his medical records. You don't want to know things like his cholesterol level, whether he's dealing with any issue that we may not know about, if he's going to be commander-in-chief. And he also said he would release cognitive tests.
Listen to your question.
Should he release that?
The American people, Kristen, the American people don't care about the cholesterol level of Donald Trump.
Do you care about the cholesterol level of Donald Trump? I certainly don't. Anyway, all righty. So just a few more election things, and then I want to get into words and the narrative and to wrap up the show. So let me see. I've got, Trump was asked about censorship.
He said this will be the last election if Donald Trump doesn't win. He's very worried about freedom of speech, censorship.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do about that?
Well, I think that we just have to win. The only thing you can do is to win. No, these are bad people, and they're surrounded by very bad people. I think they're surrounded by much worse people than they are. Joe didn't really know too much about where he was, and Kamala's worse than him. Joe is much more competent than her.
So interesting. He said, I think they're surrounded by much worse people than them. He knows what's going on. He knows that they're not running the show. You get Kamala, you get the same people that are behind Biden. It's the same. It would be the same thing. If anyone thinks she would be in control, she might be a little bit like, I think she's a Marxist. I do. And I think this has been a plan for her to get this far for a long time. But yeah. All right. So we don't care about his cholesterol level, the censorship. He pretty much said we got to win. So, guys, we need to make it too big to rig. We need to be out there regardless if it looks like he's going to have a landslide. We need to go make that landslide happen. That's what we need to do. All right. I'm trying to see what the name of these. You must accept the results. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got just a couple more things. Trump also talked about voter ID. I wonder, that's just a minute. Maybe I can show that because my last one on the election is going to be a longer clip. It's with Mike Johnson and on Meet the Press again. It's really good. She really presses him about whether or not he'll accept the results. But let's show Trump on voter ID, and then we'll end the election segment with that last clip because I think it's a really important one.
How about this? Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California.
Newsom.
He signed Newsom, I call him.
Yeah.
But do you think?
No, he corrected me. He corrected me. I said, that's the first time I've been corrected.
There are CEOs out here. If they said those sort of things about a rival CEO, they'd be sacked. Do you think it's fine for a president?
But they don't have to survive like me. They don't have to go through what I have to go through. There's never been a president that's been treated like me, so I have to fight my own way.
Well, you made a very good job of.
He signed a bill in California 2 days ago that you don't even have the right to ask a person for voter ID. And if you ask a person for voter ID, of course you have to show voter ID. The only reason you wouldn't do it because they want to cheat. The bill says you cannot, it's against the law for you to ask a person, may I please see your voter ID when he votes? What is our country coming to?
So I know that bill was signed in California. It's unbelievable. It's hard to believe that in the United States of America, we would have a law that says you are not allowed to ask for ID. Does that mean Newsom is going to also put a law in place where if you want to rent a car, you're not allowed to ask somebody for their ID? If you want to fly on a plane, you're not allowed to ask somebody for their ID? If you want to rent a hotel room, you are not allowed to ask somebody for their ID. How dare you? I think they're fighting this. I would have a feeling that the Supreme Court would totally overturn this. There is no way that you can have a law where someone's not allowed to ask for ID for something such as important as voting, especially since only citizens are allowed to vote in the federal elections. New York, I think, put out there that non-citizens can vote in their local elections somewhere in New York, or maybe it was a different northeastern state. I can't remember, but it's kind of ridiculous. All right. Yeah. This last one, the only reason I want to show it, and I know it's going to be a little bit long, maybe I'll cut it short, but it doesn't have to be that long, but this is what they do to Trump. This is what they've done since 2020. They press and press and press and press and say, will you accept the election regardless of the outcome? Do you commit to me today that you will accept those results? That's their little shenanigans, tricks. Very interesting to hear what Mike Johnson says. I think you guys will be pleased.
So here and now, can you say, if Donald Trump does not win, do you commit to certifying the election results?
Kristen, I'm a constitutional law attorney. I've devoted my life, and demonstrated every day that I will uphold the Constitution. We are going to do our job in Congress. A free and fair and legal election will be certified. And that is our hope and prayer across the board. Of course I'm going to follow the Constitution. I'm going to follow the law. That's my job. It's my duty. I took an oath to do that, and I will fulfill my oath.
Regardless of who wins, you'll certify the results.
Regardless, of course, yes, if the election is free and fair and legal, and we pray and hope that it is, there's a lot of work being done to make sure that's true. I think this one's going to be so large, there'll be no question. I think Donald J. Trump is your next president, and that can't happen soon enough.
When people hear you say, if it is free and fair, does that not undermine people's confidence in the election results, Mr. Speaker?
No, it shouldn't. No, it shouldn't, because what I'm saying there is what the Constitution provides, what the Supreme Court has affirmed time after time, what history has affirmed. Listen, Democrats have objected to slates of electors in every single election this century when a Republican president has won. Every single time.
10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate. And I object to a certificate from the state of North Carolina.
I object because people are horrified.
I object.
I've objected to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama. The electors were not lawfully certified.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina because of the massive voter suppression and the closing of voting.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not signed by a member of the Senate. I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of rejection?
There is no debate.
objection is signed by a member of the House, but not yet by a member of the Senate.
Well, it is over.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you. He knows he's an illegitimate president.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections. This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening. And it is appropriate to.
Oh, it's appropriate to do so. That's the opportunity to keep for the American public to hear. Did you hear Nancy there back in 2005? Yes. Well, that's my thoughts on the election, where we're at right now. I don't know if you guys have any more thoughts, but I'm going to move on to words, because words in the narrative matter. And I'm going to go through some of that. And it's going to be, I think, it's going to be kind of interesting, and it's going to be great info to share, I think. First, I'm going to start with a couple articles, and then we're going to look at Alice in Wonderland. So first, this article is from 2021, that Democrats tried to redefine words, court packing, infrastructure, bipartisan, amid political warfare. We're definitely in political warfare. This narrative seeding and word changing and there's always been spin in politics. Spin is one thing, but it's literally another level now. And I noticed that this started when Obama was running for president for the first time back in 2007, before the 2008 election. And the thing of it is he kept saying he wanted to fundamentally transform the United States of America. Well, doesn't that sound grand? Because it just sounds like we need change. But he literally meant it, like fundamentally transform. People didn't ask him, like, what do you mean by that? Well, they use these fluffy words, or they twist words to make something that's a negative be put on the other party. And I'm sure Republicans do it too, but I have to say, the left they're experts at it. They do it. They do it a lot. And if you look, they control the media. So, all right. So I have some stuff highlighted just on this page. For instance, the question, what is infrastructure? I think we really need to update what we mean by infrastructure for the 21st century, said the National Economic Council Director, Brian Deese. So he said this on Fox Sunday. They need to redefine what it means in the 21st century. Then we have Kirsten from New York. Paid leave is infrastructure. Childcare is infrastructure. Caregiving is infrastructure. Don't you guys know? Do you remember that infrastructure bill? Everything that was in there was not infrastructure. Nothing was infrastructure. So they use these words to get buy-in from the American public. And it works. And people fall for it. But you know what? It's our job to call it out, point it out, let people know, what they really mean here is this. We are all infrastructure now. So, oh my goodness. It's so true. Pretty funny, but interesting. I do kind of want to read this paragraph above it. There's a Senate Republican aide. In Biden's Washington, words have no meaning. If the White House supports something, then it's emergency COVID-19 relief or infrastructure. If they oppose it, then it's Jim Crow relic, no matter what it is. Aside from being intellectually lazy, it's also flat out Orwellian. Some might also call it a lie. definitely Orwellian. Mitch McConnell said we're all infrastructure now, but not just infrastructure. So then there's court packing. So the term of court packing was coined 100 years ago by FDR. Don't you just love that president? Oh my goodness. He pushed a plan to increase the number of justices. That's court packing. That's the definition of court packing. But they've changed it. Now what they say is filling judicial vacancies by former President Donald J. Trump is court packing. So if there's a vacancy and the president fills it, that's court packing. Republicans packed the court when Mitch McConnell held Merrick Garland's seat open nearly a year before an election. That's packing the court. Republicans have already packed the Supreme Court. So putting judges in is packing the court. We have to let people know that we have to call these people out on their lies first and let people know who listen to this nonsense, propaganda, rhetoric, that they're lying and they're twisting words, twisting what words mean. All right, then we have bipartisan. So normally bipartisan is support from Republicans and Democrats. That's where they get together, they do negotiations, they come to a consensus, they try to agree to disagree on some things and agree to agree on others. But now a senior Biden advisor, Anita Dunn, she's still around. It doesn't say Republicans have to be in Congress. What kind of statement is that? They're redefining bipartisan. You know what bipartisan means now? It means, he said the president's new definition. This is probably senior advisor Mike, his definition. The people controlling them are more evil than they are. The president's new definition of bipartisan is an agenda that unifies the country. So if they put out a narrative that what they're doing will unite the country, that's bipartisan. If they convince the public that most Americans will agree with it, that's bipartisan. Isn't that crazy? All right. So first, infrastructure doesn't include roads or bridges. Now bipartisan doesn't include Republican lawmakers. And POTUS is literally manipulating the English language instead of working across the aisle. So that's one article. I just have one more article, and then I'm going to pull up. I have like a little presentation. It's not that long. But this is back in 2021. Thune said Americans aren't fooled by Democrats' attempts to rewrite the English language to advance their political agenda. I wanted to show this highlight before we get into my little presentation and go through some of these words. So there's a lot of words. Infrastructure, court packing, crisis, Jim Crow, bipartisan. And he says, all the words we recognize. All the words with long established meanings. How about woman? What does a woman mean? They can't define a woman, but they can redefine all these other words, right? Also, okay, I'm not going to continue reading that. Let's get into Alice in Wonderland, shall we? I have a quote from the Alice in Wonderland book. All right, this is related to Humpty Dumpty. What Humpty Dumpty said is, when I use a word, it means just what I choose it to mean. Nothing more, nothing less. And then Alice said, the question is whether you can make words mean so many different things. So I think this is an instruction manual. This quote from Alice in Wonderland is an instruction manual for Democrats. Should we go through some of those words? I just have a few, and then I'll have a little closing thought. The first word is republic. They now have changed our country, they keep saying it's a democracy. Well, it's not. It's a republic. So when people call it a democracy, please point them out for that lie. Spending. When they spend our tax dollars, they call it investing. That's their way to trick you that this is a good thing. If you call it spending, it sounds too negative, so you can't call it that. Censorship. The new narrative is called moderation. Oh, I have something to show you guys. Right when I was getting the show ready and I got StreamYard all set up and got YouTube linked, I went to YouTube to go get the link. You're not going to believe what showed up on the screen. Okay, this is about the moderation. Censorship equals moderation. Now, I had already wrote this. I did this Alice in Wonderland little presentation before I saw this. All right, this is a screen grab of my YouTube channel. Like when I went to YouTube to get the link, look over on the right. It says moderation. I'll zoom in. Moderation helps everyone feel safe. To build a positive chat experience for you and your viewers, choose who can participate, blah, blah, blah. Manage messages, add moderators. But just the very first sentence, moderation helps everyone feel safe. Whoops. Let's put this back up. So I found that to be kind of hilarious because that happened tonight. All right, so censorship, they are calling moderation because it sounds nicer. If you call it censorship, it sounds illegal. It doesn't sound nice. Moderation is a more positive thing that makes people feel safe, apparently. The word truth. When you use truth, they call it misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. So even if you share something that's true, if they don't want it to be true, they call it misinformation. Opinion, same thing. The misinformation, disinformation, all that. But they also call people's opinions harmful, violent. I literally have seen people say that people are violent if they use mean words. It's ridiculous. Beliefs. If you have specific beliefs like ideology, political ideology, religious ideology that the powers that be don't agree with, that's dangerous. You're an extremist. You're a Christian nationalist. I should have put that one in there. I should have added that one. I didn't add that one. All right, the next one is patriot. If you're a patriot, you're considered a domestic terrorist. You want to wave that flag? You are a right-wing extremist. Isn't this incredible? This is incredible. All right, word equality. They've stopped using equality. They now like the word equity because it means a completely different thing. But they try to say that things are equal, equality, equity. Doesn't it sound like just a nice word? Like, wouldn't you want everyone to be equal? I want everybody to be equal. Our Constitution requires that we have equality. But they try to make you think that equity means equality. It does not. It does not. As Kamala would say, she promotes giving people a bigger leg up because they likely can't succeed. It's so ridiculous. People are people. Every person can succeed in this nation. Everyone. All right. Next one. We're almost done. Abortion. They now call that healthcare. They call abortion healthcare. Word, freedom of speech. Freedom of expression. So I want to explain this one a little bit. As I was going through and looking up some censorship things, one of the things I noticed, I showed that clip before of Tim Walz saying, not all speech is free. Actually, it pretty much is, unless you're threatening like a president of the United States or something. But so I was just looking at just freedom of speech, and I'm like, well, what does the Constitution actually say? Because as I was reading through some of these law papers and what some people are saying, and thinking back, like back in the 90s, there was a big push from Republicans. Maybe it was even the 80s. It might have been the 80s, because I'm thinking Reagan was a part of this. To go after any pornography that was being exposed to kids, to stop video games that are violent, that kind of stuff. And all these people that fought some of this stuff, like, won in the courts because of freedom of expression. And they're using that term to say that their First Amendment is freedom of expression. And maybe that's the precedent that's been set, but that's not what the Constitution says. And I just was thinking about it. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, all these law firms and stuff talk about freedom of expression. Freedom of expression, it's everywhere where you see cases related to people wanting to do porn, people wanting to put up things that are just nasty. And they're all talking about freedom of expression. If you think about it, if you look at Marina Abramovich, I can't believe I couldn't say her name. Anyway, that evil woman, look at her evil art, like, is that freedom of expression? I mean, that's not First Amendment. So I'm just putting a thought out there. I'm just thinking out loud. And I literally pulled up the Constitution. I'm like, what does it say? It says, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that's religion. That makes sense. Like, you have to be able to, the government cannot establish a religion or prohibit religion. And a lot of people, they twist the separation of church and state on that. Or abridging the freedom of speech. That's all it says. It says nothing about freedom of expression. The freedom of speech. So I guess I want to know, how is pornography speech? How is artwork speech? You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys are with me, but that was just my little tangent that I was on earlier. All right, I'll move on because I'm almost done. The next one is pedophile. They have changed this word. They don't use this word. If you notice, they never say pedo, however you want to pronounce it. They say minor attracted person, MAP. That shocked me when I first saw that a couple of years ago. I mean, I just saw that like maybe 2 years ago. I never heard of that term before then. Have you guys heard of that term before then? They're really sick. They're sick. It's really demonic. All right. The next one is pornography. They use the First Amendment. We say that some of the kids' books in the kids' school libraries are pornographic, and they are. They absolutely are. And they turn it around and say we're doing book banning. It's like, they try to compare it to previous book bannings that happened in the past. And that's just twisted. It's pornography. They also claim First Amendment on those books. if you can believe it. For kids. Those are books for kids. Freedom of expression is not free speech. All right. This is the last one, I believe. Condone. So they want you to condone bad behaviors. But what they call it is affirming. That affirming word is a very positive word. It's had a huge impact on the whole gender ideology stuff, gender affirming care, gender affirmation. You have to affirm my feelings. This one, I think, is one of the most impactful words that they twist from you having to condone bad behavior, because we call it condoning. I will not condone this. They call it affirming and demand that you affirm it. They demand it. So, all right. My closing thoughts, because I feel like there's a lot of folks that have had discouragement lately. I've been in talks with a couple of folks just about faith and stuff like that. And the election's coming up, and I see people nasty online saying, well, what are you doing about it? What are you doing? I don't see you out there doing blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? Everybody does a different thing. So, like, I'm really proud of Little Bo is going out there. She's a gal in my Telegram chat, and she's going out there knocking on doors. Some people are going to volunteer at the polls. Some people aren't, they're not able to. Maybe they travel for work or whatever. Everybody has a different thing. And there's other people in this movement. Our goal is to put out truth. And it's difficult. It's been a journey. It's been frustrating. It's been discouraging and that kind of thing. But I think what we need to understand is that there are a few different kinds of people. So as we go and we push this truth, whether you're talking to your friends and family, whether you're trying to get information exposed online, trying to get DEI out of your workplace, whatever it is, where you are in the movement, even if you're just sharing information in with us, like in our echo chamber, so we all share information to be able to get it out to as many people as possible. Whatever you do, it's important to understand as you get discouraged to understand that there are 3 different kinds of people. And I think a good analogy is when there's an emergency, there are 3 different ways that people will react. Some are going to run. They're going to run away because they're scared or, they don't want to face whatever the danger is in the emergency. Then there's the second kind of people, they freeze. They don't know what to do. They're frozen. And then there's the third kind of person. And that's the one that runs toward the danger. In the emergency, they're going into burning buildings to rescue people. They want to remove the danger and they address it. Well, I think in our movement, there are 3 different kinds of similar people, a little bit different, but I think there are 3 different ways that people react to all of this truth and information, because we're in an information warfare that's being put before them. And it's very difficult for many to hear. I've got people in my life that do not want to hear some of this stuff. So the first type of person runs away from it. And those are the people, they know what the truth is, but they want to deny it. They want to deny it and either pretend to themselves that that's not the truth, or they maliciously know it is and want to put a different narrative out there. But there are the people that run away from the truth, either through lies or through denying what's actually true. Then there are people who freeze. And these are a lot of people that I know. These are people that just want to be in their bubble. They don't want to hear it. La, 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 la. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. That's the second type of people. We have to understand that it's hard for those type of people to hear certain things, especially when it comes to the children or anyone being harmed or some of the trans stuff. It's really hard. The vaccine stuff, it's really hard for people to hear. It's probably easier to go slow with those people just on general politics and how corrupt politics are. And then there's the third type of people who run towards the truth. They run towards it. They fight it. They want to remove the lies. And I think that's a lot of you guys. And I just want you to hang in there because, and understand that there's those three different kinds of people. And honestly, we're in an emergency situation. So what kind of person do you want to be? You know, that's ultimately just up to you. So that's my ramble for the night. I really enjoyed the show. I hope you did. Please like it if you enjoyed watching tonight. Share with your friends and family. And with that, I guess I will say good night. Good night, friends. And keep asking those questions worth pondering.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all